Welcome to Hetz Presents. I'm Liz, and I'm so excited to be here with Bhawna Singh, who comes to us from Okta. Tell us where you're actually located, and tell us a bit about your role.
Hey, Liz, thank you for having me on this session, and certainly my pleasure and a joy to be here and talking to you. My role right now is I'm the CTO of Customer Identity Product Unit at Okta, and I'm located in San Francisco Bay Area. And I joined Okta around 2.5 years back now, so has been quite a journey because I joined Auth0 and that got acquired by Okta right at the moment. So we have come a long way, a lot of growth, and of course, a lot more to look forward to.
Amazing. So today we want to hear a lot about your experience running engineering teams, working in this really important field that touches so many aspects of cybersecurity. So let's dive right in with something going a little bit back in time. I love to ask what your first job was. Doesn't even have to be tech related. And if there's something you learned there that you still use today.
I usually share, of course, my first job was even before I completed my education. But what I share about is when I came into the work field, and this was right at the time of the bubble burst. And this funny story is that at that point, I was working for free, call it volunteer work, as a web developer, and I was getting paid as a camera operator. So that's my, parallel dual job. And
Wow.
I know how far the software engineering, or you can say the tech industry, has come, and the pay scale and all of the conversation that we hear now. But
Right.
that's where the journey started, which is work for free and get paid as a camera operator.
Yeah, I definitely can identify with my roots that way. Okay, so back to today, back to engineering. What advice would you give to someone building their first engineering team today? It's probably way different than when you started building teams.
Many of us, we lean into our experience to see what we should be doing and how we should be doing it. But many times we forget, and I see some of the leaders saying, "Oh, I've done this before, so I'm going to do it again or apply it the same way." But every team, every technology, every industry is different, even if it's slightly different. The people you have in the team are different, even if you think they're slightly different, which means that it's great to lean into your experience, but what you apply needs to be situation or current situation based. So keeping your listening ears open as you are making those changes or bringing those structure or changes and decisions, to make sure that you are bringing the feedback loop aspect so that you can really apply it for the current situation, even when you're leaning to your past experiences. That is such an important aspect. And I can tell you quite a few times when I talk to some of my peer, or in past when I've done my peer leaders, they would say, "Oh, I've done it before in this way and it worked great, and I've done it twice and it will work again." But then they didn't. So it's very important lesson, I would say, that I myself have learned, and I certainly keep in mind.
Yeah, I think the fact that humans are different and no matter what, we have to kind of calibrate to who we're dealing with is
That is true. Yeah,
universal.
that is
Yeah,
true. Like software engineers who we were hiring 10 years back are not the same software engineers with the same expectations today. So how do you
totally.
what you apply 10 years back might not be exactly or work exactly the same today. I'm not saying it will not work, but keeping that
Right.
listening ear, taking the feedback, reaching out, both individuals, leaders, managers, to see, okay, how is it going?
Yeah.
And making those as you're resonating with those feedback, like making sure you're taking actions as well, not just listening to it, is super important.
So switching gears from people for a second, I'm curious, since you've been in these tech leadership positions at both security or cybersecurity oriented companies and non, is there a difference in the security culture in a company where it's actually a cybersecurity product or security product versus a consumer or just another kind of enterprise product?
Well, I'll definitely say yes, but before that, I'll say Okta is an identity product. We certainly play a role in improving security posture for organizations meaningfully. And
Mm-hmm.
identity is key part of your organizations, you can say, cybersecurity posture, or in general the aspect of the zero trust concept that we are talking about
Right.
here. So really think about how it lays out the principles. In identity is a big part of it. Is the culture different? It is, in the sense of the heightened need of posture of security posture, the heightened need of compliance posture, and the heightened need of reliability is certainly there, especially for a product like ours, which is an identity product. We are helping the workforce employees to log in and help them be secure as they are accessing all these applications, but also make it frictionless. At the same time, we are also helping consumers or customers log in through SaaS applications or their
Right.
consumer websites, and making sure that's frictionless. So
Yep.
improving and addressing a very cohesive posture of heightened security, heightened reliability, heightened compliance is absolutely there. Does that mean that consumer space do not have heightened security and all? They do, absolutely. Um, but at the same time, they are doing it for themselves, versus here we are doing it for us as well as our customers. I think that's a big difference, which makes it a bit more, you can say, like I said, heightened and top of mind.
Switching from security culture, how, somebody at a fairly big company running a fairly big team, how do you manage to foster sort of an innovation culture within the various sub teams in the engineering?
Very important question, actually, and something that I very deeply resonate with as well, because through experience, I can tell you, Liz, innovation is so key to have a very healthy engineering organization and make sure that you are retaining your best talent. You can drive the aspects of maintenance and improvements and all of that, but innovating and making shifts is super key for you and your organization to kind of really move the needle, and not just we are delivering and and whatever. So if when you have to move the needle, innovation is part of that journey. And when I think of innovation, it starts with all aspects. Many people call tech debt as, of course, tech debt and not innovation, and call it maintenance. But there's so much
Right.
that you can do with tech debt in an innovative way. How you solve for it could be innovative. How you collectively address that in a solution can be innovative.
Yep.
And even performance. We do a lot of scaling because we are growing, so we need to scale our platform and systems a lot. How are we scaling and how we are approaching the scale can and should be innovative. So innovation needs to be baked in all aspects of roadmap. Many people do innovation by saying that 10% of the time, do whatever. That's some innovation. I also look for innovation. So many companies also do hackathons, so that's another way of innovation, which is also something that we
Yeah.
do. But also encouraging into bringing some big problems, big challenges, and giving it to a group to say that, okay, let's figure this out, rather than a top down every single time to say this is
Yeah.
the big roadmap. Like bringing some big challenges and
Right.
helping the bottoms up kind of relate to the challenge, brainstorm and figure out solutioning. Creating that space is equally important. So the way I think of innovation is there is no one track, two track. There needs to be so many multiple tracks for innovation.
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you, and certainly innovation cannot happen without recognition. So you need recognition on the other end too.
Yeah.
And people say, oh, we do some kind of appreciate or some Slack channel call out, which is all great, but I think recognition also needs too many approaches. We do all of that, Okta Appreciate and Slack channel and a company level recognition, but also team level recognition. We give our leaders some swags to say, if someone did a good job, in the moment, send them a link so they can grab some swags, right? That's one very
Nice.
quick way and a very instant, depending on the work. But I also hold a higher bar on the aspect of, like, let's call it an engineering exclusive swag. We have like a very limited edition swag,
Yeah.
which I
Addition.
can't have.
Nice. Right.
Which say you get this limited edition swag, and if when you do great job in your own ownership, but also something else that you do, so you have all ranges of recognition, so that you're not missing
Hmm.
out, or you're not just recognizing the heroes and not recognizing, let's say, people who are helping you churn, helping you get better, and all of that. So you want to create that range. And this year we did Octane, and we created space for all of these folks who got this exclusive swag award, and they all came in person and they saw the
Nice.
Octane. And we just create, and we're always thinking about how can we recognize and make them feel special, because they are working
Yep.
hard to create this culture of change and move the needle in a meaningful way. So as
Right.
leaders, our job is to make them feel special and know that we see them, we recognize them, we value them, and keep at it.
Amazing. That's definitely an important part of the retention we were talking about before, just keeping employees excited. So that's
Absolutely.
amazing that you guys are doing such a great job. For those of us who are non-engineering people, talk to the plebeians of the world. Dispel a myth about identity on the internet.
Good point. And I would say, let me say that this is what I say to my kids as well, right? This
Yeah.
assumption that if they are keeping their content in a certain category, or making some settings that identity is private or identities for them, once you put that data out, um, you can expect it to be private, but is it really private? Is it really
Right.
um, meeting all your criteria of what privacy is? If you look at the consumer space, I don't know how true it is as a consumer myself, but the
Hmm.
big part of identity that I want to call out is identity is key to all aspects of you as a person. And many of us don't. We just create an account and we share all the information, and we don't. We just when it says accept all cookie, we just press accept and move on. And these are all the things
Yeah.
that matter. So you have been given a lot of um, rights, and for us to kind of engage with those rights is important. But many of the users, as I see, it's like, yeah, I'll give all the information and I'll move on, which is fine.
Right.
But I'm just calling out that identity is your identity is very special. It's yours. Control it, and make sure that it's being used in the right way.
Yep. I give that pep talk to my kids too. That's a very important point. Definitely agree. There are many adults who need that pep talk as well. So thank you.
I would add another one, which is on the identity space as well, which is a mistake I've myself made, Liz. Which is, when I think of identity, the authentication, the authorization, all the access. Um, as an engineering leader, we all make buy versus build decisions, right? And I
Yep.
have made
Hmm.
decisions building myself in my team in past, and I have learned how complex it gets very quickly. So that's another myth about identity. Oh, it's just username, password, and maybe a
Hmm.
badge link, and maybe a social login, and you're done, and you can hence build it in house. I cannot tell you how many protocols are behind it, how many kind of ways it can be hacked and all of that. So building identity right is not easy. It has lots of complexity, and
No.
making the right decision there as a technology leader is super super key. As you are, let's say, I mean, I don't think there's any organization that cannot have login and access and all. So if, when
Right.
you're doing that, making sure you're making the right choice. And then the second part of it is when you're growing, when you're scaling, can all of that technology scale with that
Yeah.
growth? And those are all very key parts of identity. So that's on the technical side, or you can say the behind the scenes side of identity,
Right.
that many people miss out.
Okay, so now I want to know if there is a solution or specific technology that you feel is missing from the market as somebody running engineering teams for developers that you would just love to see or maybe even build yourself, but it is glaringly missing for you.
Well, if it's not in the identity space, I don't think I can build it, or I want to build it, is all I would say. But I think there's still, look, I feel like security, as we have been talking about for many years, is still evolving. And certainly AI has put more strain on security
Hmm.
posture and how we are identifying the attackers and how we are addressing those attacks and all of that. So this is absolutely a very evolving space. We
Yeah.
ourselves are adding some research here and some innovation. My team in machine learning, they presented a couple of our papers in CAMELIS recently, which is a very important and a good you can say forum. So we are.
Mm-hmm.
I'm. I know industry is actively working in this space, but this is evolving. That is certainly
Wow.
something that I would call out. And I myself are looking at, what more should we be doing, right? So we
Yeah.
always want to stay ahead of it, especially with AI as a new ad. Um, the other thing I would call out is, in the operations space, I still feel that the AI, there's a lot of AI in the product, in the productivity, in the features development space, but operational intelligence is still in its early phase.
Mm-hmm.
There's this understanding of like, um, operational might be very very key to one company versus some other company, but there's a lot of generic aspects of it. So operational intelligence is another category I would say is, some people can call it infrastructure, but it's the
Right.
operations aspect. How are you managing your operations? You're very spread out cloud installments. How are you supporting fast reactions to issues? Posture on resiliency, trust, security, all of that. So I feel like operations is still in the works, not quite there, because I
Big
know that.
potential.
Yes, because my team has to build a lot of orchestration and tuning and our own ML
Yeah.
setup. So, and I don't see much out there solutioning. So, I mean, there's some coming now with the AI adoption. So, actively
Right.
looking.
Well, so the founders that are watching should take note. um, and I'll pivot to founders for a second because that's our main audience. I'll give you a choice. Either what is the biggest mistake a startup founder could make when trying to partner with you or pitch you on their solution, or if you have a good example of a founder doing it really well, we could hear that too. But either way, I want the founders to learn from a senior executive at a big company.
And that's a great question. And thanks for asking that, Liz. Um, I'll answer both in a more, how I receive it in the way, right? So,
Sure.
as a receiver who sometimes, hear some of the founders, we want your advice, we want your feedback, your suggestion. Many of that conversations as I enter, because I'm happy to help. I believe in technology leaders as well as founders who are trying to solve technology space, and I want to help from my experience. But there's the very quickly the conversation goes into, so, like, what do you think about buying it for Okta?
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times, and as an advisor, look, we are not against bringing a technology, or any strong good technology leader is not against bringing a technology in house. But as an advisor, I will know when to, and I will broach that conversation. It's okay to
Mm-hmm.
say, what will it take to bring it to Okta? Uh, and I'm happy to answer those questions. But the assumption in the first call itself is that, okay, so, you know,
Yeah.
okay, talk about, bringing it to Okta. And that sometimes, makes me hesitate to take on other calls of connection and advice, because look, it's not that I understand the enthusiasm of the founders. I want to
Right.
help. Also understand that they're looking for design partners and all. And it breaks my heart to say, no, you're not ready every single time, or
Right.
too many times. It's not that every single time, but too many times. So if you could make it easier for advisors, not just me, others, to if you truly need advice, you say that, you take the advice, you take the feedback. If you're looking for a
Mm-hmm.
design partner, please make that clear up ahead, so that I can
Yeah.
say, okay, this is not the area of my priority. I'll give you a very very key example. Just because I said operational intelligence, just an
Right.
example, doesn't mean that if you have an operational intelligence solution tomorrow that I can engage with you, because I have a
Yeah.
roadmap, I have a priority, I have a team that's focused. I can't just
Yeah.
shift and bring it at some point. But that
Yeah.
conversation helps because now maybe 6 months later, a year later, we can engage and talk about it, and maybe you're at a certain stage. So understanding that aspect and be comfortable or come with that transparency, I think that would be valuable.
That makes a ton of sense, and I think that's great advice. Okay, I want to turn for a second because I see that you're involved with 𝐸3, a nonprofit career network for women of South Asian descent, and I wanted to give you a minute to just kind of share with us any insight you can from your volunteer working with them, and give you a minute to talk about it.
Yeah, so 𝐸3 is one. I do volunteer in multiple areas. I started advising uh, other founders as well, where my first advising, you can say, role or space was first time founders and first time women founders, because I saw very closely that there was a lot of hesitation where they felt that if I ask this question, my investor will think I'm stupid or I don't bring a certain
Right.
knowledge. And same thing, but they're first time women founders, so they don't know what community to go and all. So that's where I saw the need, and that's how I started. Now, I have larger network and larger connection. And that's in that way I do involve myself in multiple places where I can I can help mentor, I can help support, I can give um, valuable advice from my experience. I don't expect them all to land or connect or someone to take it, but at least I have shared, and on the receiving side, you figure out how to make good of it. So I like to do that, and 𝐸3 is one of them, where this is an organization. So 𝐸3 Future Fund is a group where the GPs, you can say, a good friend, Maitli, she brought the idea to me, and I loved it, where she said that we are absolutely talking about bringing diversity and inclusion from bottom. So, interns and bringing in folks from the early career. We're also talking about founders and CEOs and C-suites, to help bring that diversity. We haven't heard yet the conversation of investors and funders, and how do we make sure that we are investing in the founders who are a diversity or from multiple backgrounds. So that's the idea behind 𝐸3 Futures Fund, which is a group where there are like almost 250 or more women LPs
Wow.
who have made contributions to this fund group, and as GPs, they invest in organizations, or you can say companies where the founders are of diverse background, or C-suite is from diverse background, to help kind of elevate the voice and help kind of bring their ideas forward, which otherwise, and many times, as you know, gets missed. I do see many other VC
Absolutely.
groups who are also taking this as an initiative, and I appreciate them all, and I help wherever possible.
That's great. No, we need everyone we can get in this half of the world. Finally, I just want to end on a light note. I like to ask very busy senior executives what they do for fun when they're not busy building.
It's so funny. Sometimes, being when you're busy, the what you do for fun is like just relax and binge watch, and as much as
Yeah.
it does not sound fun, but it's such a relaxing
Totally.
aspect. But outside of that, I have older kids, so we go hiking.
Nice.
Just short vacation. We can't take many long vacation because they're in high school, so we have to make sure there's tiny vacations, so tiny vacations with them to do something, some activity. Those are all the ways that I spend time. Reading is another one that I like, because catching up on a lot of insightful books that many people have written is another way to actually improve as a leader, my, you can say, toolkit or tool set.
Yep.
So I also kind of lean on reading or watching TED Talks and all the other stuff that otherwise in my busy days I miss out on.
Thank you so much for sharing this time with us. I know this is going to be very helpful to a lot of our founders and others. Thank you for being with us, Bhavna.
Hey, appreciate it, Liz, and thanks for reaching out and inviting me to do this, actually. And I hope it's helpful. And if there's any area where there's more question, happy to share my views and thoughts. But it's been a joy to be part of Hetz now.